Um, my name is Beth Lynch, and I'm the Program Director, Project Manager with Nova Scotia Hospice Palliative Care Association. And the Nova Scotia Grief Alliance was co-developed and co-led with our organization as well as Nova Scotia Health. So Maura, I'll let you introduce yourself.
So I'm Maura Beaton. I'm a manager with the Palliative Care Network at Nova Scotia Health, and Beth and I work together and on all things grief in Nova Scotia. And we're happy to be here today to hear from Meaghan.
Okay, so the Nova Scotia Grief Alliance, as I said, was created in partnership with Nova Scotia Health as well as Nova Scotia Hospice Palliative Care Association. It is a province-wide network connecting individuals and organizations involved in grief support to collaborate, share resources, and build community connections. So the Alliance offers ongoing opportunities to learn and engage through webinars like we're doing today, through regional roundtables, as well as a provincial symposium. So webinars are hosted online and cover a range of topics. So in May, we featured grief basics. And then in June, here today, we're talking about grief and music therapy. And then coming up in September, we have two webinars booked. One is supporting grieving children and youth, and the other is managing compassion fatigue. So we are currently booking more webinars into the fall months and into the winter. So stay tuned, there's more coming. In-person roundtables are being held across the province. So the first took place in Sydney on June 6th, and it was a great success. And additional roundtables will happen in other regions this fall. And then planning for the provincial symposium is underway, and it will build on the connections and conversations that were started at the roundtables and will be started. And the symposium will provide opportunities to network, share experiences, hear from grief researchers and practitioners, both professional and community-based. And I'm going to pass the floor over to Maura, who's going to introduce Meaghan.
Absolutely. So Meaghan Jackson is a certified music therapist and a registered counseling therapist candidate. And she'll tell you a little bit more about herself as she jumps into this session. Recently, you may have heard her on the radio on CBC Information Morning Cape Breton, where she talked about the work that she does with kids and Minecraft. It's to help kids through their grief. So we're really excited to have Meaghan here today. She has done a lot of work in music therapy, and she's going to talk to us about music therapy. Yeah. Go ahead, Meaghan.
Thanks for that warm welcome, Maura and Beth. So excited to be here with you today. I'm just going to share my screen, and I was playing around with it. What do we think about this? Does this make sense? Are you seeing me and,
Yes.
Is that fun? Okay. I've never done
Yeah.
that before, so it seems fun. So I am, oh wait, there's someone in, I'm gonna get the chat open so I can see. You can, perfect. Oh great, thanks, Christian. So I am so excited to chat with you about my absolutely favorite topic. It's been pretty much my entire career for almost 20 years, grief and music therapy. And I wanted to let you know that I'm coming to you from beautiful Cape Breton Island, Unama'ki, or as Land of Fog, as the Mi'kmaq people say. And I love when, as they named it many, many, many years ago, long before I was here, long before any of us were here. And I love when it works out. I don't know if you can see that, but it's very foggy. So it's an apt name, Land of Fog. They knew what they were doing when they named Cape Breton Island many, many, many years ago. And I'm lucky to grow up and to live in a time that knows this, that honors this, and respects this. And I can't help but think about Chief George Paul when he sat in his grief at the loss of his culture due to colonization. One day he sat in his grief for 4 days, specifically grieving the loss of the Mi'kmaq honor song, and it said that he was gifted with the honor song. So the honor song that we listen to today is from Chief George Paul, from his experience of sitting in his grief and experiencing that grief for 4 days. And then he was gifted this song, and that's what we hear today. Just to start us off a wee bit. So what will we be talking about today? So we're obviously going to be talking a little bit about grief, and then a little bit about music therapy. And then I'm going to explain 4 different ways that I use music when I work with grieving individuals of all ages. So relaxation and guided imagery, singing and community, and songwriting, and Minecraft, which seems kind of funny, but it works, I promise. So unfortunately, I do not have access to share music, which is unfortunate, but that's okay. So I just thought I would start off with my favorite poem these days, just to kind of orient us in this discussion on grief and music therapy when we're talking about grief. This is my new favorite poem. It's called "The Unbroken" by Rashani Rhea. So I invite you to close your eyes if you'd like, and just kind of take it in. There is a brokenness, out of which comes the unbroken, a shatteredness, out of which blooms the unshatterable. There is a sorrow, beyond all grief, which leads to joy, and a fragility, out of whose depths emerges strength. There is a hollow space, too vast for words, through which we pass with each loss, out of whose darkness we are sanctified into being. There is a cry deeper than all sound, whose serrated edges cut the heart, as we break open to the place inside, which is unbreakable and whole, while learning to sing. So, what do we know about grief? Grief is a universal experience. If they say, if we live long enough, we will experience it. If we love, we will grieve. It is the normal emotional, physical response that humans have to loss. And nearly every single one of us will experience it at some point in our lives, hopefully when we're older, but it does happen for children as well. And there are lots of folks who are talking about grief. You've got lots of folks lined up there, Maura and Beth. So I won't go into too much more detail because lots of folks are going to be covering that. And we're here today because of the music therapy piece. And I just want to invite everyone, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. I am monitoring the chat. So if you have any questions, feel free to plop it in there. I'm going to dive right into the music therapy piece. So what is music therapy? Today, the Canadian Association of Music Therapists describes it as the clinical use of music to reach non-musical goals. So it's a form of therapy that uses music to support individuals in their lives. Are we the first ones to use music to heal? Absolutely not. It's an ancient practice. I won't go into too much detail, but some anthropologists believe that we sang before we spoke. We've been making instruments and singing and playing drums and engaging in our musical human experience for millennia. And we, a long time ago, if you had melancholia, you might be prescribed a scale to sing or to listen to ease the soul, to ease the heartache, to ease the mind. But modern music therapy, what we know today, has been around since the First World Wars. So the way we have clinical music therapy today stems from the veterans who were coming home after the war with what they called shell shock, and they were hospitalized with what we know as PTSD, and hospitals noticed that when they hired musicians to go into the hospitals, it helped them. It helped support their experience, and so that intrigued researchers and clinicians, and thus the modern music therapy movement was born. Now, the Canadian Association of Music Therapy is 50 years old this year, which is kind of fun. So, music therapy in Canada is only 50 years old. The modern version of music therapy. So, how do you become a music therapist? That's sometimes a question that people ask. So, briefly, you need to have either a bachelor's or a master's in music therapy and be registered, be certified by the Canadian Association, the CAMT, the Canadian Association of Music Therapy. And back in my day, it was a huge accreditation file that was like had to be in triplicate and in binders. It was very intense. Kids these days have it so easy. Now it's you might see the letters MTBC after some music therapist's name, or you might see MTA. MTA is the Canadian music therapist credential, and MTBC is the American credential. So about 10-15 years ago, they switched to the American way of becoming certified, and it's an exam. Kids these days have it so easy. You write an exam, and then you have your MTBC, which transfers over to your MTA. So some music therapists keep their MTBC up, some don't. So you might see those letters after music therapists' names. So can you use music if you're not a music therapist? Absolutely. Can you call it music therapy? Absolutely not. It's a protected term. So if you're using music with folks when you're supporting them, go right ahead. Obviously, we don't own music, but it's important to know that you can't call it music therapy. That would be like if I gave someone a Band-Aid in a session and then called myself a nurse. I'm not a nurse. Yeah. So just get kind of protective about our term, about our designation. So that's a wee bit about music therapy. So how did I become a music therapist? I'm from Cape Breton Island, from Unama'ki, and I went to St. FX, and I was halfway through a jazz music degree when I realized that I needed to figure out how to eat when I was finished. And then I found out about music therapy, and I packed everything I owned into my guitar. I stuffed my clothes in my guitar, and I flew out to Vancouver and took the Bachelor of Music Therapy program from Capilano. It was Capilano College back then. It's Capilano University now. And became a music therapist. And I started working my internship and then my first job afterwards. Oh, there's the logo for the Canadian Association of Music Therapists. If anyone has any interest in finding more out about us, it's at musictherapy.ca. So I immediately started working for Lionsgate Hospital and North Shore Hospice, eventually when the hospice was built. And off the side of the desk of my mentor, Dr. Heather Mohan, was born Lumara. But back then we called it Camp Carey. So we began the first, I want to say the first family grief retreat in all of North America, definitely in Canada. So it's not just for children or for youth. We believe in supporting the whole family. So families come. We have camps in BC and in Ontario. And oh, thank you for that, Maura. And we have 5 days of retreat where we have lots of, since Heather is a music therapist, there's lots of music therapists. Art therapy, counseling, and we have fun things like, depending on where we are located, zip lining, rock climbing, and then every age group has a support group. There's lots of time for music, for art, for play, for healing, and it's really quite wonderful to support the whole family. You can really see a lot of shifts and changes within that short time frame throughout that weekend, and you can just really see the power of music to hold space. So from Camp Carey, thank you so much. We created Lumara Grief and Bereavement Care Society. And so that is a national registered charity who I work for. We're across Canada. We're based in BC, based in British Columbia, but we support folks all across the country virtually. And then during the pandemic, so I was living in Vancouver, and then during the pandemic, as one does, my family converted a school bus into a tiny house, and we drove across the country and we came home. And so now I'm happily living on Cape Breton Island. And so that's my little family in 2020. Notice our masks. And then now I'm happily working with Hospice Cape Breton, with the Palliative Care Society of Cape Breton County, where I started a grief and bereavement music therapy program here on the island. And it's just such a treat to be able to be home and supporting my community. I like to say when I left my job, my good union job in Vancouver, there were 10, 15 people that could have filled my job, lining up to take my job when I left. And it's so great to work and live and work in a place where no one else is doing the work. So if I wasn't here, this wouldn't be happening. So I'm really really grateful to be here. So that's basically my story about how I brought music therapy and grief and music therapy to Cape Breton. And so how do I work? The burning question. What does it look like? How does it work? So there are 4 different ways that I can kind of really go into detail here. So the first one is relaxation and guided imagery and music. So one thing that we may notice for folks who are working with people who are grieving, our nervous systems can be really heightened. We're often lots of physical symptoms, difficulty sleeping, difficulty relaxing. So one thing that I love doing is relaxation. So I do at the hospice relaxation sessions, either individually or within a group. And I really love the group model because it helps to build that sense of community. I always love saying that there's no greater feeling than knowing that you aren't alone. And there's something really special about bringing people together who are grieving, and then sharing experiences, sharing stories, sharing our love of the person who we're remembering, the person in our lives who died. And I love relaxation groups. I don't know if anyone has ever been to a yoga class, but the Shavasana at the end, the best part. It's basically like a Shavasana at the end. So we either sit up in comfortable chairs or we lie down on mats. So we come together, have a talking circle, share what's going on in our lives, sharing our loved ones, sharing our grieving experiences. And then we get out of our talking minds. We get out of our thinking and intellectualizing about it, and then get into our bodies, get into our hearts, and we do a head to toe relaxation, and then we listen to music, usually live music, sometimes recorded, and invite ourselves to go to see with our mind's eye, to see what imagery comes up. And I was going to do a bit of a sample with you today, but unfortunately I can't get the sound to work, unfortunately. So instead, what I'll do is I will do just a brief relaxation. Okay, so before I get into that, guided imagery and music is a type of, it's a modality that I'm also trained in, that was created by Helen Bonney, who was the music therapist who chose the music during the psychedelic trials at the Baltimore Institute in Maryland in the 60s and the 70s during the psychedelic trials. And then once the medication became illegal, she developed this, other folks that were on these trials, they went off to do other things, like Stanislav Grof went off to do the holotropic breath work. And Helen Bonney found that with the medication, people would have these amazing, incredible experiences. We're seeing that today with clinical trials, and we're seeing it clinically. People are using psychedelics in modern therapy and end of life, and for addiction and for a variety of different uses. And Helen Bonny found that if we just use the music and deep relaxation, after these experiences, you could wake up and actually remember what was happening. So it's a gentler way of kind of leaning into relaxation, leaning into seeing with our mind's eye, exploring our inner worlds, calming our nervous systems without the intensity of the medication. So once I found out that I worked in palliative and hospice care for many years, and once I found out that they were doing clinical trials of psychedelics, it looked just like a GIM session, a guided imagery and music session. So I became trained in it so I could offer this to my patients. And I just love doing this modality, offering this modality for the clients that I see. And so just a brief, I'm going to try. Okay, I'm going to stop my share for a second because Michael said that I might be able to. Uh-oh. There we go. Wait. Sorry. Google Chrome. I'm going to try to share my screen again. Stop share. Okay. Sorry. Michael just told me that I might be able to share it. I don't think no, I still can't, unfortunately. Oh well, that's okay. Can you see what? Okay. That's okay. Can you, yeah, there we go. So let's just take a few moments just to pause. And I invite you to feel your feet on the ground. Feel your bottom on your chair, resting comfortably against the back of the chair. Just taking one nice deep breath in and then relaxing your shoulders. And then just beginning to slowly notice the natural rhythm of your own breath, not trying to change it, just noticing its quality. Noticing the gentle rise and fall of your chest with each breath that you take. Noticing the rise and fall of your belly with each breath you take. And then slowly exploring this feeling, this softening, this relaxation. Slowly inviting it in. And imagining, if you will, as we explore this feeling of softening, of relaxation, imagining a color, just a wondering, just an invitation. Is there a color that represents this feeling of softening and of relaxation? Whatever color comes to mind, just imagining it, swirling around with this softening and relaxation. And then imagining now, inviting this beautiful color of yours, this softening and relaxation, imagining it traveling to the top of your head, traveling slowly down, softening in between your eyes, softening the corners of your eyes, softening the corners of your mouth, feeling the weight of your tongue now in your mouth as it softens and relaxes. And then inviting this color as it softens and relaxes to travel all along your jawline, up towards your ears and through the back of your head, so that this beautiful color of yours and this softening and relaxing is now flowing all through your head and your face. And taking some time here to notice how this feels. Inviting this beautiful color to travel down through your neck, and your back, your upper back and your lower back, softening and relaxing. This beautiful color of yours wrapping its way around each one of your vertebrae, softening and relaxing. Before traveling to your shoulders, feeling that weight of your shoulders once more as they soften and relax. This beautiful color of yours traveling down each one of your arms, your upper arms, your elbows, your lower arms, down through your wrists and your hands, and the palms of your hands now, all the way down to your fingertips. And beginning to invite this beautiful color of yours to travel to your chest, softening and relaxing all of the muscles and areas of your chest, noticing once more that gentle rise and fall with each breath you take, before traveling downward to your belly, softening and relaxing all of the muscles and areas of your belly. This beautiful color now flowing downward through your hips, feeling the weight of your hips on the chair once more, softening and relaxing as it travels down each one of your legs, your thighs and your knees, down through your lower legs, your calves and your ankles, down through your feet, the bottoms of your feet, all the way down to the tips of your toes. This beautiful color of yours now flowing through your entire body, bringing with it this wonderful sensation of softening and relaxing, now flowing through from the top of your head all the way to the tips of your toes. And now imagining, as our time for relaxation is slowly coming to a close, imagining what it would be like to have a wee bit of music right now, to be able to sit in this space, in the quiet, in the calm, supported by the music, aware of only the natural rhythm of your own breath. Supported by the music. And now, as our time is slowly coming to a close, I invite you to begin to take some deeper breaths here through your nose, out through your mouth, beginning to wiggle your fingers and your toes, gently coming back to the here and the now, this time and place. And when you're ready, opening your eyes. And I'm just curious if anyone would like to share what that experience was like for them, to take this time and this quiet. Just plop it in the chat if you'd like. So I'm sorry I can't share the music. I did have a short little piece of music just so you can experience it. So that's a bit of an example of what we do in individual sessions and in thanks, Beth. Individual sessions and in our group relaxation sessions, and it's really quite lovely. We've got a really great group at this hospice right now that comes every single week. Well, thanks, Lindsay. And then afterwards, so we come together for an hour-long group. We have about a half hour of talking, about 20 minutes of talking, and then about 20 minutes, 30 minutes of relaxation. Oh, I love the color. Yeah, as well, John, Ashley. And and then we come together, we relax. What I love about it is that the pressure isn't about talking. So as soon as you come, you can just kind of let go, feel grounded, that grounded feeling, right? So some folks were saying it was calming, it was grounding. Um, and embodied. That's a really great word. And I love what you said, Stephen, reluctant for it to end. So what, oh, and someone said they could hear the music. Oh, Maura, that's fabulous. So you kind of imagine it. Imagine it. And so what we've noticed with the group is that they are also reluctant for it to end. And now they stay for tea afterwards, tea and a little treat, little sweet treat. And there's this lovely little community happening here at the hospice, this lovely little grief community. And I really love that calming of the nervous system that happens with this modality. So that brings us to singing together. I will often use just the briefest of those relaxations in every group that I do. Even when I'm working with, I do a couple of times a month, I go to the Cove. I don't know if anyone's from Cape Breton. It's a long-term care facility here in CBRM. And I'll do this with the seniors before we have our musical time together. And I do this with our community grief choir that we have that I started at the hospice. I just love singing with other people. It's my favorite thing to do. And so with this community grief choir, it provides important opportunities for grieving individuals to connect with others who are grieving and share our voices, raise our voices together in song. I'm reminded of the poem that I started with, that as we break open to the place inside which is unbreakable and whole while learning to sing. I don't know if anyone who's experienced a significant loss, who's experienced grief, that feeling of kind of getting kind of lost, our voice can feel stuck, when we're crying, and we kind of feel a little stuck in our grief. There's something really powerful when you come together with others who are grieving and share our voices together. Now, I love saying, there's a saying, I don't know, I can't remember it exactly. The woods would be awfully quiet if only the prettiest birds sang. So I often get people saying to me, "Oh, I can't sing. I'm not a good singer. You don't want to hear me sing." And I do. I really, really do. I love all voices. I feel like programs like American Idol, Canadian Idol, The Voice, I think it really really hampered and damaged our relationship to music, and more importantly, our relationship to our voices. Think about when I was saying earlier about how anthropologists think that we sang before we spoke. Think about those humans that were singing around the campfire. Mothers singing to their children, fathers singing to their children, singing in community. And then bringing it back to Cape Breton, to Unama'ki, in my family history, and which is often with folks around Cape Breton and other areas of Nova Scotia, and the idea of sharing song with your neighbor. So you would walk to your neighbor's house, not that long ago, you would walk to your neighbor's house and you wouldn't leave until you shared a song. And there were, in the last century, instances of bards, so people who that this would be their whole job in life, their profession, their purpose in life. Ron Kaplan, who did the Cape Breton magazine, he wrote a lot of papers on narrative obituary verse in northern Cape Breton, and he actually wrote a book about this as well. Andrew Dunphy, who was a bard in northern Cape Breton, and he would go around to communities and share and write songs for people who had died in their honor. And so not that long ago, we had a different relationship with our voices. And I feel like it's my mission in life to bring people back to that, to help, to invite, to support people to share their voices, even if they've been told their whole lives that they can't sing. It's false. It's actually quite rare for people to have what's it called? To be tone deaf. It's actually very, very rare. And even so, if you I love saying strong and wrong. It's jazz, baby. strong and wrong. Be proud of that note that you're singing, of your tone. No one else in this world has your voice. And so at the beginning of our community grief choirs, we do a check-in where I have a little stone that we pass around, and then I invite everyone to share who they're singing for. So who are you missing today? Who are you remembering? Who are you grieving that you'd like to sing for today? It's kind of like an honoring with your voice. And then we do a bit of a relaxation to, feel that groundedness, feel that embodied, feel all of those feelings that everyone was feeling, to really get into our bodies, get into our hearts and our heart spaces. And then when we do our warm up, I invite people to join in when they feel ready. So I'll start singing. This warm up that we do, and then I invite the choir members to listen to who's singing, and then add your voice in, and then notice, how does it feel to add your voice in with others? And you're not trying to be perfect. We're not trying to be banned here. No one's buying tickets for our shows. It's about music for the sake of music, not for perfection. And I just love that. I love imperfection. My favorite thing to say right now is that it's the imperfect things that prove that we aren't AI. So be imperfect, be strong and wrong. Come and sing with your whole hearts, however you may be in this moment. And there's a lot of research about this, about singing in community for grief. So the benefits include sharing your experiences with your grief, shaping new identities, finding new meaning, having new experiences, accessing inner resources, and then honoring and maintaining connections with the loved ones that they are remembering. And so I thought we could try this. So I have this lovely song that we love singing in our choir. Oh my goodness, I can't. There we go. I'm just gonna do this. There we go. A lovely song that we love singing in our choir. It often will provoke tears. I don't know if you can see the lyrics. So I invite you with your mics off. Unfortunately, Zoom um, hasn't leveled up to be able to sing together in a group. But because of delay, there's some latency issues. But I thought it might be fun to. I thought it might be fun to try it just a wee bit. There we go. Okay, so with your mics off. And can you hear that? Yeah, okay, great. So I just invite you connecting back to our bodies again. So really feeling our feet on the floor. I always say during the guitar introduction, this is your time to feel your feet on the floor, your bums on the chair if we're sitting, and then to feel that natural rhythm of your own breath. All I can hear are the crickets whistle from some lonely friend. I've been working so hard to make everything right, but for now, you'll just have to wait. 'Cause tonight, I'd like you to rock me to sleep. Like you to sing me a song. I'm tired of trying to figure things out. And I'm tired being so strong. I've never been too good at asking. I'm more apt to do it alone. It's strange how a lot of us think something's wrong if we can't do it all on our own. Tonight, I'd like you rock me to sleep. I'd like you to sing me a song. Tired of trying to figure things out, and I'm tired of being so strong. It's funny how times when you're hurting make what's so familiar seem strange. And when you need help, it's the hardest to ask. And it always takes so long to change. Tonight, I'd like you to rock me to sleep. I'd like you to sing me a song. I'm tired of trying to figure things out, and I'm tired of being so strong. That is one of my favorite songs of all time. In those heavy places, so I'll often sing that memorial services, memory services, with my music team at Camp Carey. And the choir, the community grief choir, just loves it. It's a Willie Nelson song. And I just love the imagery of, it's okay, you don't have to be strong anymore. It's okay to be supported by someone else. It's okay to be sung to by someone else. And it's really rocking. So any music nerds in the room, it's 1-4-1-5. So really rocking. There's a whole music therapy technique called the Diane Austin vocal holding technique, which just goes from the 1 and the 4. So 1-4, the 1 and the 5. Any music nerds, sorry, that would be like if you're a classical music nerd, that would be like the tonic and the dominant, or the tonic and the subdominant. Or if you're in the key of C, you'd go from C, F, C, G. So it's really rocking, really holding, lots of repetition. Us music therapy nerds, these are the songs that we try to find. Because they can really hold that space. If it's all over the place chordally, like if your chords the changes are all over the place, it doesn't hold the space as well. And music just has that way of holding those difficult spaces. I like to call it the art of being present when the present isn't pleasant. And as we sang, I could imagine so many people I know getting relief. Yeah, anyone else feel free to share what that experience was like for you. Because I can't see you, but what was that like for you to share your voice? What was that like to sing, knowing that everyone else, hopefully in the Zoom, was singing at their homes, at their offices? Like, what was that like for you? Feel free to share. So that's a bit of an example of what I do with the community grief choir. And one of my favorite things that we've done with the grief choir is write a song, because that's my big passion is songwriting. I just love songwriting. And I was just reflecting on this not so long ago. A lovely release. Thank you, Sarah. I was just reflecting on this not so long ago. My grandfather, who was like my dad, he died when I was just turned 20, so I was very young. He was my biggest adult that was supporting me. You know, he's the one that drove me to university and was really supportive of me and my music. Um, and he died when I was 20, and I remember thinking, how do you do this? How do you just have someone in your life 1 minute that's your everything? Like he was my everything. And then you just don't have them there. How do you go through that? And I was 20 and didn't have a lot of support. And I had to do it on my own. And how did I find my way through? I wrote a song. And it's so interesting now. Because I just finished my master's at Concordia, my master's in creative arts therapy, music therapy, and my research, my master's thesis research was on songwriting, and specifically on the use of songwriting as an expression of grief, specifically on Cape Breton Island. So it was a qualitative interview study, and I studied how Cape Bretoners use music. So I use songwriting as a way to hold those difficult spaces with their grief. How do they use it to express their grief? And I just I just love it. I use a lot of songwriting as a therapeutic modality, like as a therapeutic process. I've used it with hundreds of people all across the country with those family retreats I was telling you about earlier. And I've done, it was different. I've done it in BC, Ontario, and New Brunswick for a bit. And then when I came home and started doing it here, I noticed something different. There was an eagerness, an ease, an excitement about songwriting. When I would say, hey, let's do songwriting next week in the choir, they came ready with lyrics. Like they were on it. They were so jazzed about it, which was so exciting. And I just got excited about that, which prompted my research. And so I love storytelling. I really see a link with narrative therapy, like narrative grief therapy. There's this fabulous narrative grief therapist based, I think she's in San Francisco, who I trained with. Her name is Lorraine Hedke. She writes some incredible books like The Crafting of Grief. So she talks about how storytelling, which is what songwriting is, we're telling stories through song, how storytelling is an intrinsic way that we can make sense of our lives without our loved ones after a death. And by weaving our loved ones, weaving the deceased into our present realities through storytelling, these narratives help to create new relationships with them after the loss. This process allows those who are grieving to, quote, honor and keep alive these bonds in ways that are sustaining and in ways that are hopeful. So, stories enabled our loved ones, our deceased loved ones, to be present, even for those who've never known them, such as children whose parents have died at a young age. So, by weaving those stories into our children's lives, they can create these relationships with them. A neat story. So, my grandfather was very important to me, and my youngest son is named after him, Leonard. And I always have told stories about him to my children. And he was just my grandfather was just a part of our lives. You know, oh, Bumpy would love that. We called him Bumpy. Bumpy would love that. Bumpy was a musician. Bumpy played fiddle. Bumpy played mandolin. Um, Bumpy would just tell stories. And then the sweetest thing happened when he was in grade 1 and he had to draw a family tree. Guess who was on the family tree? Bumpy, his grandfather. Even though he never met him, he died long before he was born. But he was so much a part of his life, that when asked to say, who's in your family? He wrote in his great grandfather, which I think is, and he left out some important people that were living, but he kept that alive. So his story, the meaning we talk about making meaning and about keeping them alive in our hearts. That really is a way by storytelling. And so I love, through storytelling, we maintain relationships with the deceased and introduce them to new people and foster connections between the listener and the deceased. So I was really curious about this and I really wanted to study it. I such a nerd when it comes to this stuff. It's just so fun. So I explored the use of songwriting as an expression of grief on Cape Breton Island. And I'm just naturally really fascinated by how we use music naturally to heal ourselves naturally. Going back to, those anthropologists who said that we sang before we spoke. Yes, music therapy in Canada is 50 years old. It's much older than that. And so I'm really fascinated by those things. So I'm going to briefly share my findings with you, just really briefly. So 3 themes arose from my research after chatting with some Cape Breton musicians who had used songwriting as a way to express grief. The first theme was the transformative grief journey, and there were 3 sub-themes. Variable grief responses. Everyone's journey was different. Songwriting was seen as a safe container for coping with complex grief responses. And songwriting was also a catalyst for moving forward. One of my participants said that it was, quote, a tool for dealing with my own grief, processing stuff and then turning it into something tangible. I often say, when we have these complicated, difficult feelings, it can feel like it's a lot, like there's no words. So often when people are coming to session with me, they don't have the words to say to express their grief. They don't have a way of saying all of the enormity of that experience for them. And songwriting has this way of taking all of that swirling feelings and putting it into something tangible that you can share with other people. Music has that way where words, that saying, where words fail, music speaks. So when you take the story, when you add melody and rhythm and harmony, and then you share that with others, it's a way for people to feel seen. And that was my next theme, cultivating connection. So songwriting helped to ease the isolation that the participants felt through collective songwriting. So writing songs with other people, and then fostering connection with the audience. And that could be through a live performance, or that could be through recording the music and then sharing it on social media, sharing it with their friends and loved ones, just by messaging it to them. So really fostering that connection with the audience. And one of my participants who was grieving the loss of one of their parents, they had written a song about that loss. And then when they went to their next show, they had released it online. And then when they went to the next show, it was the first time they were playing it live. And when they went to open up their mouth to sing, the audience sang it with them. So can you imagine sharing your grief with a group of strangers, a group of people, and then having them share in your grieving experience by singing along the song that you wrote as an expression of grief? And then finally, the final theme was an intrinsic practice. So each of the participants spoke of trusting the process of following their creative pathways, their creative journeys. And then the final sub-theme was cultural relevance. So each one of them talked about an innate feeling drawn to songwriting and spoke of their relationship to music. And the data suggested that the prevalence of music in the participants' culture positions them well to draw effectively on all that songwriting has to offer. And one of my participants said it perfectly: when it comes to grieving in Cape Breton, especially, it has a lot to do with the Celtic culture, where they treat every tragedy as a chance to write a song about it, to immortalize the moment in song. Everything is enshrined in song. And they went on to say that it's one of the core aspects of Cape Breton culture. And now I see this in my work at Hospice Cape Breton. Songwriting is a common occurrence in our community grief choir. Uh, the choir members will often say little nuggets of gold, and we'll write it down, and we'll come together and write a song. We're writing sad songs, we're writing happy songs, we're writing funny songs, and it's just such a fun way to share our grief, to come in community together, to gather together in community. Yeah. So I am wondering, I was going to share a song. I love doing songwriting in groups. So when I do those camps, those grief retreats, I'll often do shared group experiences. I love it, where I'll have so this one song that I wanted to show you, which I'm gonna try to hold my phone while we're watching it. I'm gonna try to hold my phone up because it's just so fun. So this particular, this I have to download slides on my phone. I love technology. The future is fabulous. Um, this particular song that I'm gonna share was written at Camp Carey, and how it worked. We had these family strength groups, and we had these family strength groups, and so I would meet with 3 different groups of families. So we divide they'd each take turns coming and hanging out with me, and we would write a song together. And you can hear specifically three different verses in, no, wait, sorry, 3 different verses. Sorry, I'm gonna try to find it. Uh, 3 different verses, and you can hear the children singing. You can hear me singing a little bit, and it's just so lovely. Okay, I'm going to stop the share for a minute. Okay, just a second. Sorry, I hope this is okay, but it's just too fun not to share it. It's just a really great example of what the songwriting experience can look like. And I've got a bit of a slideshow as well. Da, da, da. Okay, sorry. Do, do, do. Oh my goodness. So while I'm doing this, does anybody have any questions? Feel free to put them in the chat. There we go. Share. Da, da, da. Airdrop. And if someone wants to, I'm just have to, if someone wants to read out, does anybody have any questions about music therapy or songwriting or the relaxation piece? I've got one more thing to talk about, and I think we've got about 15 minutes left. Yeah, okay, great. Sorry, it's taking its sweet time. It's a large file. No, I don't.
Any questions from the group on music therapy? Anybody done music therapy before or have any experience with music therapy you want to share?
I have a question. I'm multitasking and I apologize. It's Ashley Cormier here. I'm here with my
Ashley.
student hat on today, Maura.
Oh,
So I work full time with Nova Scotia Health, but I'm also doing my master's in social work. And I'm also the yoga person that said I teach yoga. And I've always been very drawn to creative expressions, whether it be music or art. But I personally do not consider myself a musical person. So I love music, and I've written some poetry, but I would be one of those people who considers myself a bad singer. So I've been very mindful of that, and I would say shy to sing in public or sort of participate in that. But I've been talking to several folks in our area about engaging local musicians in a bit of a concert or showcase of music as a healing mechanism for community. So it wouldn't necessarily be music therapy, but use of music as a form of creative expression and healing. So just just really curious, I guess. Just around partnerships as well and other parts of Nova Scotia. I'm in northern Nova Scotia, and certainly we've got a very large group of creative folks here locally. But would just love to chat with you further and just see, curious about partnerships and your background is very interesting. So thank you.
Yeah, I'd love to chat. I'm gonna at the last slide, we'll have my contact information if you want to chat more about it.
Awesome.
I love that. That would be fabulous.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And then I think I saw. Can you repeat the first 3 points that you found in my research for songwriting? Oh, yeah, sure. So my first 3 points. So my first theme was the transformative grief journey. The first sub-theme was variable grief responses. The second was songwriting as a safe container for coping with complex grief responses. And the third subsidiary theme was songwriting as a catalyst for moving forward. The second theme was cultivating connection. First subsidiary theme, easing isolation through collective songwriting. Second sub-theme was fostering connection with the audience. And the third theme was intrinsic practice. First subsidiary theme, trusting the process. And the second was cultural relevance. And unfortunately, my airdrop is just not working very well. So I might come back to this. If it works, I would love to share it with you. Oh, thanks for this webinar. Have you heard of oh, yeah. My thoughts, there's not a lot of research on it, and music therapists on the 639 hertz music being calming and healing. There's not a lot of research on it as far as I understand. It's really fascinating. I love it. It's kind of on the uh, full disclosure, I had COVID this week. So you're getting blunt, Meaghan. It's kind of on the woo side of things. So it's kind of like sound healing, like the sound baths. I don't think there's a lot of research on it. It's not something that music therapists do a lot, that from my understanding. I find it interesting though. Yeah. From what I've read, most music therapists don't, not that they dismiss it, but they don't lean into it, let's say. Yeah. Does that make sense, Charlene? Yeah, it's something that's interesting, but it's not something that's really science-based yet. But who knows, in the future, it totally could be. Yeah. So let me just share my screen once more. Boop, boop, ba-doo. Okay. And so that leads us with the final thing that I said I would chat about, which is Minecraft. So I have been working with children who are grieving for a very, very, very long time now. And then when the pandemic hit, we were trying to figure out ways to support grieving kids when everyone was home alone. And we found that folks got zoomed out pretty quick. Kids, it's kind of hard to be on Zoom. It's not that fun for kids. maybe novel the first time, second time, third time, fourth. I noticed that with my own children. But one thing I did notice with my children is that they loved Minecraft and gaming online with their friends. And that's really how my children, and I was not a, did not like my kids to have a lot of screens until the pandemic hit. But we really leaned into it because they were chatting with their friends as they were playing, and it was a way for them to engage with other children and play in a safe way during the pandemic. And so, looking at my children and how helpful Minecraft was for them, I came up with a children's grief Minecraft program. So we call it, because the organization I work for is called Lumara, I call it Lumaria. My son named it, my eldest son. And we meet just like a regular children's grief group. We meet on Zoom, and then we meet while we are while we're in a device. So we have two different devices, one for Zoom, one for our Minecraft playing. And for anyone that doesn't know what Minecraft is, it's a wildly popular sandbox game. So it's very creative. You can play in survival mode where the goal is to survive. I like to play in creative, so it's not stressful. And the children just make these incredible builds. So we have a talking circle where each child has the opportunity to share who they're remembering, their moms or their dads or their siblings. And then we'll have a mission, and everyone is always invited to create a memorial on the memory wall where they can make these memorials to the people that they're grieving. So it's just really sweet to see children say, I'm just making my mom's, they call it a couple of people have called it, I'm just making my mom's grave. And this is how they're processing their grief. They're building these memorials. Sometimes the prompts might be, what's your favorite memory, or what do you love to do, or what is your favorite fun fact? Not every child has a memory of their loved one who died. So I'll say, what's their favorite fun fact? Were they really tall? Did they love pizza? Did they like playing video games? Did they love music? And then we'll build something that represents that in the world. And then where the music piece comes in, my gamer tag is DJ Nutmegs, and I play DJ. And so I'll ask for suggestions from the children, and I play their songs. And then we talk about, how do those songs make them feel? What are those songs about? How do you feel when you listen to it? Why do you like that song? Can music help us when we're having a hard time? And we have these mindfulness moments, like we did kind of like when we practiced together. Well, we take our eyes off the screen, practicing good gaming techniques. We stretch our bodies, stretch our eyes, stretch our minds, have a grounded moment. And it's a really lovely way to include music into the Minecraft experience. So they're not just on the games. We're actually, it's multifaceted. There's lots of different things going on. It's very rowdy. Love it so much. It's a lot of chaos, as you can imagine, but it's really, really, really quite fun. Yeah, so that is, oh wait, let me just see somebody in the chat for the set.
That was me posting the evaluation.
Oh,
form.
great.
Thank you.
Thanks. Oh,
Yeah.
perfect. Thanks. And then that's it. So I just want to invite you to leave you with a question. How do you use music to support you? When do you lean to music? Do you listen to music in the car? Maybe when you're getting ready in the morning, maybe when you're winding down in the evening. How do you use music to support you? How do the people that you're working with, do they use music to support themselves? So just an invitation, an opening, a wondering for you. You'll notice that my contact information is there. Meaghan J. Jackson, that's 2 J's at gmail.com. Feel free to send me an email. Feel free to connect. I'd love to chat with you if you have any ideas or questions or anything like that. I don't know if you can tell, this is my favorite thing to talk about, and I can talk about it forever, but I am cognizant of the time, and so I will leave it at that. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Megan. That was an awesome presentation. Um, is there we probably have time for one or two questions. Any further questions or comments from the group?
Ashley?
Yeah, I actually just have a question about like insured programs. And is music therapy covered, like for folks who have access to private coverage? Are your services covered through those type of extended health benefits? And also just in terms of availability and other public facing services, what access to music therapy looks like?
That's a really great question, Ashley. That's the reason, one of the big reasons why I wanted to go back and do my master's so that I could become a registered counseling therapist candidate, so that my services can be covered under extended health benefits. So anyone that I see with relation to the hospice is covered, which is fabulous. But if you aren't grieving, or if you're somewhere else, then I can see you. Yeah, I'm covered by Blue Cross, and all of those. I'm just in the process. I just finished my master's, so I'm just in the process of getting all of those things. So yeah, if you have someone that you're thinking about, feel free to send me a message. And oh, thanks. Music therapy isn't covered in Nova Scotia right now. Like if you don't have your RCT, so you have to have your RCT in order for it to be covered. Your registered counseling therapist. Yeah.
Awesome. Megan, we had a question in the chat a while back, and I know we're right at 11:15, so folks have to go. But we had a question a while back about how to access music therapy in Nova
Oh,
Scotia, if that's something that folks would be interested in for themselves.
for themselves. Now you can, there is the Atlantic Association of Music, the Atlantic Association of Music Therapists. That is one place where you can find other music therapists. And then it really depends on what you're looking for. So if you're looking for there are a few hospices around Nova Scotia that have music therapists working for them. IWK, I know the Valley Hospice has one. Hospice Halifax, Hospice Cape Breton has one. That's me. So it's starting to pop up a wee bit more. If you're looking for a private practice, probably the best thing would be there we go. The Atlantic. You were so on it, Maura. Thank you. So that would probably be the best place. Or you can go to the link I shared earlier, musictherapy.ca. That's the Canadian Association for Music Therapists. I'm pretty sure the AAMT has a list of music therapists in Nova Scotia, but I know for sure CAMT does. They have a link.
All right, awesome. Just recognizing we're over time here. So folks need to head off. Thank you so much for joining us today. Megan, you said when you were talking about not everybody has to be perfect to sing, that we can be imperfect. You said be strong and wrong. And I wrote that down. That's my new motto. Be strong and wrong. I'm into it.
Wrong and wrong.
And Megan's email's in the chat box there, and Beth just has the webinar evaluation survey. So this is our second session. Please do fill out our evaluation survey so that we can plan for future sessions. So thanks so much. And thank you,
Thanks.
Megan. And apologies,
Oh.
Megan, about the sound issues.
It's okay. These things happen. Thanks so much for letting me
Technology.
chat about my favorite things.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
I just removed the last couple.
Are we still recording, Beth, or?
Says we are. Let's stop.